We might be too young to have a spotted cow, but we are both diehard Packers fans.
I could talk about this for hours.
He was my legend. He was my quarterback one. Taysom Hill, forever in my heart.
We have a kind of a reputation of being the young and diehard fans. How is that, Dr. Pepper Taysom?
Amazing.
Okay, good. Let's keep it under 25 minutes, all right?
How's it going, everybody? This is Joey here at the Underage Packers podcast. Welcome to episode 111. We welcome you here for a special Bears Week episode on this great podcast. Big B, thanks for showing up again.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. You know, nice to be back.
Yep, made the time. You've been a guest on every single one of my episodes. It's really incredible.
That's got to be a record, I think.
I think so. But today, me and my guest, my co-host, will be talking about the Bears game that we got coming up. Should be an interesting one. Hopefully the Packers are able to get back on track after a rough loss in Minnesota. So we'll also be doing a little bit of a, after review after we've had a little bit of time to get through the motion of it, give our thoughts on that game, and then we'll move into Bears Week. And then stay tuned to the end of the show for two reasons. Number one, to hear Big B's Random Game of the Week, our new segment where we bring up random games from the past decade of Green Bay Packers football. So that's going to be fun. And also stay tuned to the very end to watch a video of 11-year-old me prancing around The Bears Still Suck. Why do you say, oh God, like you don't take a lot of enjoyment from that video?
That thing wakes me up in the middle of the night sometimes. Like I have dreams about that video and it scares me.
It scares you?
Yeah, I think it's terrifying.
Well, that was not, the goal was to scare Bears fans, but hey man, if it scares you too, then that's whatever. So yeah, you'll want to stick around for the end of that. Well, let's head right into it with our after further review of this Minnesota game. Obviously the thing that everybody has been talking about all week is Justin Jefferson and his performance. I need to pull up the stats here. I know he had, at one point in the game, it was right after halftime, he had like 6 receptions for like 150 yards, so just an insane average. He only had 9 receptions, so it's like, they must have done a decent job at containing him. But 9 receptions going for 184 yards, an average of 20.4 yards per reception, 2 touchdowns. Unbelievable.
Yes.
How many did Aaron Rodgers even have 184 passing yards?
I think he had around 200.
Let's see.
Oh, I think
195. Unbelievable.
That is absurd.
Yeah. So, everybody's been dissecting this lack of a plan from the Packers defense, and it was really hard to watch. Obviously, Joe Barry got up on the presser today, and he said that the reason that Jair wasn't covering him all game was because of the motion of Jefferson in the backfield, which they apparently said was too much of a threat to have just man coverage, because then he gets lost in translation with the motion, and then he ends up getting passed off to Shamar John Charles or Keyshawn Nixon, and that wouldn't go well. So they instead play zone for a majority of the game, and that goes even worse. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I get what the idea is, and the fear is of having Jefferson go in motion and having what the Packers were able to do last year with Devontae Adams and just move him all around the field. But I just cannot believe the number one plan was put Jair Alexander on Jefferson no matter what. No matter what. It's bizarre to me. And a few times that Jair was directly on Jefferson, he had the offensive pass interference he caused. Yeah, the pass breakup, and the other time was an incompletion. So, just weird to me. Can't understand the plan there.
Yeah, but I will give Green Bay credit. They did do a better job at least trying to contain him in the second half. Like he didn't
Yeah.
get that many more catches, and 3 more catches in the second half. And I think the defense as a whole played better the second half and really adjusted.
Yeah, I'd agree. Really still hoping for a better whole performance from this defense in this upcoming game. On the offensive line, offensive side of the ball, offensive line obviously did not hold up, made it really tough for Aaron. But also, like we said in our initial review of the game, like Aaron, Matt, you knew this was going to be the case going into this game. I don't know if, they just found out the injury status of Bakhtiari and Elton just a few days before the game, but they knew this was going to be the case, that they were going to be going out there with Josh Nyman and Royce Newman as their starting offensive tackles. They knew that Zadarius Smith was going to be matched up with guys like Jake Hansen for a majority of the game. So, that's an enough. That sucks. But then the fact that Aaron Rodgers tries to play hero ball, reverts back to his 2018, 2019 style of play, it's just so incredibly frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't, buy into the people who throw out there his body language. You could obviously tell that he was mad, but a lot of people try to take a lot away from that. I don't, but I do definitely think after the Christian Watson drop, some people would say it was a change in attitude from Aaron, and I definitely think that is true. But also just the fact, I think after that drop and after they went down by a possession or two, Aaron really tried to play hero ball. And I don't understand, looking at the first drive of the second half where the Packers get the ball back, you have 2 great runs with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And then the next play, who knows what happens if it's fully developed, but Aaron fumbles the snap. I don't understand it. Incredibly frustrating offensive and defensive game plan from the Packers coaching staff.
And even Stanovich said in his presser today something like, they wanted to run the ball more, but they're at a point in the game where they were down.
Baloney.
Baloney. Come on. You can run the ball more. The whole purpose of passing is to intertwine them two.
Yes.
You understand? You understand?
Oh no, they've lost the Nathaniel Hackett, marry the pass with the run. What's going on here?
I love Stanovich. We're boys and everything, but you could run the ball a little bit more in the second half than 2 times.
Yeah, sure. If we're talking about the last half of the last quarter.
Yeah, that's understandable. But in the third quarter?
Yeah, Aaron Jones only getting 8 carries is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And that was a sentiment echoed by Matt LaFleur after the game. And a lot of people have pointed out, in Matt LaFleur's now 10 regular season or 11 regular season losses. Every time, just reading from what he says, he always starts off press conference right off the bat with, I take full responsibility for this, and me and my coaching staff have got to do a better job to put our players in a position to succeed. And he says that every time. And he in games like this, he says something to the effect that Aaron Jones needs more carries. But with Aaron Jones needing more carries, him saying that, it's like, hey man, you're the one deciding that. And also, something has to change in these games. It's great to hear you take accountability, but when your losses kind of follow the same track every time, something's got to give. Something's got to change. And, he's obviously has not had many losses in his career this far, but, something's got to change because, there's a lot of similarities between his losses, with week 1, being a part of it, just simply looking unprepared being part of it, and then not being able to do anything on offense once you're down by a possession or 2. Something's got to change in these games.
Yeah, I was going to say the same exact thing.
Okay, that's all we have on that Minnesota game. Packers are now, I believe I saw 2-5 at US Bank Stadium. That's right. And the fact that I can remember the 2 games they won there being The one that won the North in 2019, that was a great game. And then week 1 of 2020, which those two of those games are some of my favorites in recent memory. So got to make more of those memories at US Bank Stadium. Now on to this week, looking at the Bears. One thing I wanted to bring up that Aaron Rodgers said at his press conference yesterday on Wednesday was his comment about Amari Rodgers. Our buddy Kyle Malzahn asked him, just what he thinks Rodgers' use or Amari's use in this offense can be, what he thinks of him as a player this season. And Rodgers had a pretty blunt answer and just said, he's a returner for us now. That's all I got on that. Which isn't what you want to hear from the starting quarterback about a receiver. And especially Aaron Rodgers, who values, he is very conscientious of what he says about his teammates in the media. He's not going to throw them under the bus. So to hear him say that about Amari, instead of, even, I don't think he would have lied. I don't think Aaron could make himself do that. But, I like just not saying anything positive about him is bizarre to me. But knowing Aaron, I tweeted this out, knowing Aaron, he's going to call this a media overreaction next week and act like, all of his words were misconstrued. But I mean, come on. I don't know how you can look at that and not at least say like there's no meaning behind it. I think the other possibility is just his matter-of-fact tone that he gets with the media a lot of, why are you asking me that? I'm not the head coach. Why are you asking me about a wide receiver's usage? But I think the former is much more likely.
Yes.
Which is really confusing to me. I tweeted this out again. I tweeted out, Amari Rodgers is so confusing to me because he looked great in the preseason. We heard LaFleur and Rodgers talk about the camp he was having. And then he goes out there and has zero offensive snaps in week 1 against Minnesota in a game where they were missing Allen Lazard and had 2 rookie starters playing their very first game. Like, that's concerning.
Yes.
So hopefully, I'm a big fan of Amari Rodgers. I hope he gets on the right track here so that we're not looking at him being a free agent after the season.
Yes, but I mean, like, Randall Cobb is here for a reason, of course. And that's the reason why Amari Rodgers was drafted, was to be the Randall Cobb of the offense. And I just think this thing is getting blown out of proportions not really by the media, but like everybody else on Twitter is like deep diving too much. This could very easily be like, hey, Amari, see what I said in there, could play a little bit better. Or it could be directed to Matt LaFleur saying, hey, get this man on the field, let more of him. That's how I took it.
That's an interesting outlook.
Yeah, like it could be. It's either a shot at LaFleur or a shot at Amari. Like
I think that second one it plays into a little bit of the, like a matter of fact tone to the media. Like, why are you asking me that? But it's a different way of looking at it. That's an interesting take.
Yes.
On to this Bears game now. First off, let's talk about the rivalry a little bit. The Packers currently lead the series 103-95 over now. So they played their first game. I need to look here. Back 1921 when the Chicago Staleys played their first match against Curly Lambeau's Green Bay Packers. The Bears won 20-0.
Ooh.
But obviously the tides have changed in that series. It doesn't seem like too long ago though that we just took them.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say that like a pretty wide margin now. Like I remember when we were like just past them. Like we got 90 wins.
So we've won the past 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games against them. So we overtook it in 2017, which is kind of crazy. It just tells you like how the Bears dominated for that 20-year period between Lombardi and Favre. But now we have taken the torch back, obviously. Bears have 1 win since 2016, 7 since Aaron Rodgers took over in 2007. And it just seems like Bears fans have kind of given up on the rivalry now. And so have NFL fans. I know I saw somebody say like, why do the Bears and Packers keep getting Sunday night games? And it's a solid question. Like it's usually the one at Lambeau too. And I think it's obviously just because of the history of both Lambeau Field, Packers, Bears. It's, the historical, not implications, but the historical feelings you get from that is something. But I can definitely see for other NFL fans, like, why is this a primetime game when the Packers have dominated for the past 30 years, right? So I get their frustration. I love it, though. I still love, dunking on Bears fans. Not as much as I love seeing Vikings fans' sadness now, but Packers and Bears fans, I think over the past years, have gotten at a good place with each other. Now that it's not competitive at all. And hopefully we in our lifetimes don't have to witness a period of domination like the Packers have on the Bears right now in an opposite manner.
Yes.
Really hoping that's the case.
And it's pretty crazy. Wes said in Unscripted, not the previous one, but the one earlier in the week, like the Packers and Bears played in prime time like the past 18 years, I think he said.
Jesus.
15 years. Something crazy like that. So that's a nice little tidbit from Mr. Weston.
That is crazy. Man, well, the Bears have the Packers to thank for a lot of their national coverage then.
Yes.
There is no other reason they'd be in a primetime game for each of the past 18 years if it weren't for Green Bay.
Yes.
That's crazy. But one thing is for certain, and this was true in the game at Lambeau last year that we were in attendance for, is that the Bears will definitely, they'll start off, I wouldn't say hot, but they'll start off warm. And like the first half of the first quarter, right? They'll start off warm then. And then like either Justin Fields will throw a pick or Aaron Rodgers will just start throwing bazookas on them. And then Rasul Douglas pick six, either one of those three. And then all of a sudden it's like 28-3 by the end of the second quarter. So like that's just the typical path of a Chicago Bears game. I remember last year, like midway through the third quarter, I was just talking with Kyle Cousineau, just casually chatting with him as they scored a touchdown. And the touchdown from Aaron Jones was really just a happy interrupter to our conversation. It's like, oh, they scored again. Now it's 31-13, 39-13, and it ended with a final score of like 41-13. So that's just typical Packers Bears game. Cannot wait for it. Actually analyzing the Bears, that this does not matter because the Bears could have Bill Belichick and Kyle Shanahan as their offensive and defensive coordinators, and it would not matter. But looking at this game, the Packers are facing another first-year head coach, Matt Eberflus, formerly the defensive coordinator from Indianapolis. He did some really solid things there. He comes from a history of being with Rex Ryan, kind of Mike Pettin too, at the Browns and then the Jets. So I don't know much about his system, but we'll be interested to see how he kind of carries along that Bears defense after they were pretty productive with, coming from the era of Vic Fangio being with them, and then who was their last guy. He kind of has a weird last name, Sean Desai, who was their defense coordinator last year. Bears have always had very successful defenses, but interested to see how Eberflus, now a defensive-minded coach, shifting from the offensive mastermind in Ryan Pace, or no, Matt Nagy. So interested to see how he does. And then a friend of the show, Luke Getsy, has taken over as their offensive coordinator, and that offense is pretty much in his hands now with Justin Fields. And Getsy does not have much experience directing an offense besides his 2-year stint, I believe, at Mississippi State. Don't know how successful he was there. I'm sure he took a lot away from his time with McCarthy back in the early 2010s when he was our wide receivers coach. I'm sure he took a lot away then. The Bears don't have the personnel, the ideal personnel for a McCarthy-style West Coast offense rolling out 5 wide. Seeming as one of their best offensive weapons is Equanimeous St. Brown. But hey, man, I'm incredibly interested to see what this new era of Bears football looks like, and I'm especially excited for the inevitable downfall that will happen in maybe 2 to 3 years, and then the cycle starts again.
Yes.
Other thoughts on the Bears? Really, the only way I can see them getting this game is if they can contain Aaron Rodgers, get him flustered early, put some pressure on this, weak offensive line, at very least a young offensive line. And then on offense, utilize their running game in David Montgomery and the young Khalil Herbert. I really like those guys as players. And then also Justin Fields, if he can, I don't see him having a 300-yard passing game against this defense, but we saw last year and the year before that how this defense can struggle with mobile quarterbacks at times. So I think that's the pathway for them on offense, not a heavy passing game, but more so of the running game from both their running backs and also Justin Fields, who I'm excited to see his career downfall as well. Not that I have anything against Justin, but maybe not a career downfall, but a Mitch Trubisky career path. Really hoping Mitch Trubisky just goes absolutely off over the next 5 years, because that would just prove our hypothesis of the Bears, traumatizing young quarterbacks and ruining them for the rest of their careers.
Mm-hmm. And going back to Justin Fields running all over the defense, that's why we drafted Quay Walker. Hey, I'm just saying.
Yep, that is.
Was for mobile quarterbacks and covering tight ends, so Darnell Savage doesn't have to. Just saying.
That is true.
That is true.
Which Quay looks like that shoulder injury is not going to be serious. Was practicing yesterday, full participation at practice. Looks like he should be good to go. Maybe a little limited in this game, but he should be good to go Sunday night. So that's great.
And I would expect Ray Wilborn to be elevated from the practice squad for this game.
Wow.
Yes.
I don't mean to take away from your comment, but I'm like, I feel like I just had a Corey Banky moment there. Like, wow, that is incredibly meaningful to me.
I know it's pretty meaningful, but I figured might as well say it,
Yeah. So there's that. Big B, any other thoughts you wanted to add on the Bears before we get to our 3 keys to victory here?
Yeah, the Bears got a really young secondary, very talented secondary as well. Got a lot of nice young talent on that side of the ball. So Rodgers could take advantage of that young secondary. Hopefully he will, and go for like 400 yards.
Hopefully. I need a vintage Rodgers versus Bears game.
Oh yeah.
All right, now into our 3 keys to victory against Chicago. Number 1 is showing up to the game. I mean, that's really the only key. Getting your jerseys on, getting the pants on, and you're good to go, I think.
Yes.
Gatorade guy has to make sure to follow that too. No, okay. First key, limiting mental mistakes. Big B, could you elaborate on this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, they had a lot of mental mistakes last week. Rodgers even said in his post-game presser, got to clean up the mental mistakes. And, the Watson drop was clearly a mental mistake. A bunch of other things happened, even with Aaron Rodgers, were mental mistakes.
Yep.
So clean those up, and we should be having a successful day.
Okay, number 2 is getting the run game going early. Definitely agree. Let's just see more Aaron Jones, more AJ Dillon, both in the running game and the passing game. And finally, Big B, I think key number 3 is the most important one. Let's hear it.
Yes. Better offensive line performance. Last week, yikes, they were getting. Well, Jake Hansen was absolutely getting destroyed.
Had to name drop him
here. got to have a better performance, got to pass block better. Run game, we really didn't see a whole lot of them in the run game since we only ran like 10 times the entire game. But pass blocking is definitely going to be huge to get a victory. Rodgers was clearly flustered multiple times throughout that game. That's what we need.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Finally, that is our Bears game wrap up, Bears game preview. We might be live at some point before or at halftime of the game on our Instagram, so make sure you follow us there. We have like at a certain point of that Instagram live, halftime of the Vikings game. And I'm sure this has more to do with the situation the Packers were in at that time, but we had like 100 viewers at that point, and that was absolutely insane to me. So appreciate all of you tuning in, whether you were wanting to see our anger or just wanted to share sadness, but that was fun.
That was.
Yes. Finally, Big B, let's hear your random game of the week. I'm excited for this one because when you brought it up to me, it brought up a lot of memories.
Yeah, well, since I am going to the game this Sunday, if you see, come say hi. You know, don't be scared. I'm only a child, so it's fine. But my random game of the week was my first ever game I went to. It was Packers and Chargers in 2015. Got that Demarius Randall last second breakup or bat away in the red zone to win it.
What was the situation in that? Was because weren't the Chargers like 4 points down? Like,
I think so.
Or either that a touchdown would have won it or put it into overtime. It was a big play from Randall.
Yes, and it was on 4th down too, so whole stadium was hype. James Starks had an electric day with 112 rushing yards and 2 total touchdowns on the day, including a 65-yard touchdown, which I still remember, still up there. Don't remember very much from those early games I went to, but I remember that one. And just a random Chargers one is Keenan Allen just absolutely went off. Felt like he had like 30 receptions that game. He had 14 receptions for 157 yards. Great game to be at. Wore the throwbacks as well, which even made the game even more beautiful.
Were they still wearing the brown helmets at that point, or were they were yellow, right?
They were the yellow ones.
That was okay.
Ones.
I got you. That makes it even more better.
Oh yeah.
It was quite a game. Let us know if you remember that game in the comments down below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Spotify or anywhere else, we'd appreciate if you give us a good review or a bad review, I guess. Be honest in your reviews. Yeah. But other than that, that's all we have for you on this lovely Chicago Bears week. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all the other places you can find us. And we'll talk to you later. Go Pack Go. And the Bears still suck.
Hi, Bears fans. I just wanted to let you know I had a phenomenal time watching the playoffs on the couch, including watching you lose. But luckily for you, I saved a warm seat for you. So come along and join.
Crazy. Upright. Crossbar.
Oh, it just depended on which.
Times must we take this disgrace? Another Bears fan throwing insults in our face. The Packers are the greatest team to ever play the game, even if from time to time they've been a little lame. How could you ever love a team with Jim McMahon? Not even Porky Pig was as big a him. They got a reputation that's mostly based on luck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck.